Hello, I'm Askar Sharif and you're watching the news from Kazakhstan. The National Unity Doctrine was approved by the President's administration and sent to the cabinet. The famous document became perhaps the first successful joint project of the authorities and opposition. One of the main features of the doctrine makes it mandatory for the Russian-speaking population to learn Kazakh. Find out more from the next report.
The President has approved the National Unity Doctrine, reported on Thursday Yerly Tuzhanov, a representative of the Assembly of the People of Kazakhstan, during a special press conference. The doctrine was under development for half a year and is based on over 500 different proposals. This is the first document in the history of the independent Kazakhstan, developed jointly by the authorities and opposition.
The opposition, authorities and national patriots work together, and this is the result. This means that democracy can work in practice. I think that the authorities scored some points for doing this, although they also lost some for not doing this sooner.
The doctrine is not a legislative act and should work towards the development of the national spirit, believe the conference participants. For instance, studying Kazakh will soon become mandatory for every citizen.
Besides creating opportunities, the state should also act as a tool of coercion. For example, the state imposes taxes and forces citizens to pay them. I think we have been compromising long enough with the tolerant language policies.
Meanwhile, all foreign movies will soon be dubbed in Kazakh. The bill has been already approved by the senators. Political scientists now seriously talk about the possible reduction of importance of the Russian language in Kazakhstan. Prime Minister Karim Masimov also implies it in his speech.
In 10 years, everybody must speak Kazakh. This is our aim.
At the same time, officials promised exactly the same thing 10 years ago. But for the most part, the talks about Kazakh are still carried out in Russian.
Kyrgyzstan's movement April 7th demands an apology from Nursultan Nazarbayev for calling the recent uprising in Kyrgyzstan banditry. On April 29th, the movement's activists held a rally in front of the Kazakh embassy in Kyrgyzstan, reports Radio Azattyk. The protesters also demanded to open the Kyrgyz-Kazakh border, still closed since April 8th. Additionally, the movement members appealed to Nazarbayev with the request to extradite all former Kyrgyz officials involved in the April bloodshed who could be currently hiding in Kazakhstan. At the same time, counterclaims are being addressed to the interim government. Famous political scientist Alexander Knyazev said on Thursday that the current authorities cannot manage the mission they were entrusted with.
The new authorities keep making mistakes, one of which was to allow Bakiyev to leave the country. Moreover, there is a split within enforcement agencies, as some officers support the previous president and others the interim government. Experts say that all of this leads to the decreasing level of trust to the current authorities. Kyrgyz politicians show their wait-and-see attitude, perhaps until the parliamentary elections set for October 10th, 2010. The majority of political elites of most countries have the same opinion as President Medvedev, who said Russia is ready to work with the new government, but only when it becomes legitimate.
The residents of the village Samarskaya in East Kazakhstan are concerned about the possibility of another devastating flood due to the rise of the water level in the local dam. A 30-meter-long patch of the reservoir has been already destroyed, placing the settlement at risk.
New spring floods are expected in East Kazakhstan. More than 1,500 people were evacuated from the village Samarskaya near Uсть-Kamennogorsk due to the high risk of the Laili Reservoir dam break.
Currently, the works are underway to strengthen the body of the dam and to release water without damaging the nearby settlement.
While rescuers work on the dam, villagers have to live in the local school and hotel. If the dam does break, several village streets could be completely destroyed. The water started rising 3 days ago and is still coming. Meanwhile, more than 10 yards were flooded with groundwater in Uсть-Kamennogorsk. Now dams are urgently raised near the houses. Experts hope that this will hold back the water from the river Ulva, where the water level has visibly risen.
The work is carried out round the clock with the use of 50 dump trucks, 20 regular trucks, as well as the bulldozers.
It is very hard to reach the house of Lydia Yeremenko. The woman can barely get to the gate, walking on logs, and the water is already inside the house. The pensioner blames the local authorities. I appealed several times to the local communal services, but heard nothing back. It is damp here, which is bad for my young grandchildren. 4 areas in East Kazakhstan ended up in the emergency zone. Specialists say the situation will become worse by the mid-May, when the heavy thaw is expected in the mountains.
6 websites under the umbrella of the newspaper Голос Республики, the Voice of the Republic, are being blocked, said the publication's reporters during the press conference in Almaty on Thursday. This is not the first attempt to interfere with the outlet's activity. This time, journalists decided to discuss the possible outcomes of such media suppressions.
Kazakh Telecom's internet users can no longer access portals Respublika Info, online version of the newspaper Голос Республики, the Voice of Republic, as well as several mirrors of these resources. Representatives of said projects accuse the telecom of intentionally blocking the access, as the sites are freely available through proxies or other providers as well as from abroad. We will go to court after making a logical conclusion about the origin of the blockage. Moreover, we have already appealed to international organizations, asking them for help, as this is an outrageous example of the freedom of speech violation. The management of the portal and newspaper never received notifications about any possible violations. Meanwhile, Kazakh Telecom's representative denies any allegations towards the national company. We have already said many times that blocking websites is not in Kazakh Telecom's interests. If needed, we will prove this in the court. The press sees 3 reasons for the blockage: the action OSCE take of rose-tinted spectacles held during the Eurasian Media Forum, information about a group of Russian public relations specialists who tried to find out whether an Uyghur can become the next president of Kazakhstan, printed in the rumor section and mentioning the name of Prime Minister Karim Masimov, and finally the coverage of activities of the unregistered party Alga.
Maybe indirectly our presentation for the upcoming actions could have been a reason for the blocking of the website, but I doubt that.
This is not the first attempt to hamper with the work of the information web resources. During the special press briefing, journalists drew parallels with similar events in Kyrgyzstan. The recent clashes began during the total shutdown of the internet in the country, and together with the freedom of speech violations, served as one of the reasons for the revolution.
Almaty community is seriously concerned about the blockage of the internet portal Respublika Info and the online version of the newspaper Голос Республики, as these censorship attempts violate the law on mass media and the right for the free information access. Representatives of the International Public Fund Adil Sos believe the portal is blocked because of the political motives, as it never published any information breaching the legislature of Kazakhstan, and the administration never received any prior notifications.
Perhaps this is a very delicate question for those who actually have a flip to switch, but the way they do it is entirely another issue. No warnings or notifications were issued, while the same sites are accessible through other providers.
A well-known Kazakh blogger Adil Nurmakov believes the internet censorship in Kazakhstan will soon cross the line of being tolerable, as very soon citizens will have no other choice but to receive unbiased independent information only by using proxy service. This method is already widely used to access livejournal.com, blocked in Kazakhstan for already 1 year. Web resources are being blocked and newspapers suppressed in Kazakhstan. What now happens with the internet cannot be really called censorship, but rather some random shutdowns.